How indeed, Theoden King. We're back, everybody. We're back. Back for second breakfast. Except this time, it's some sort of dystopian breakfast with bugs with a side of black goo. Let's just get into it. Let's get into the methodical tarnishing of Professor Tolkien's Legendarium. We open on the Frodo Waith, a dwelling of Morgoth.
Morgoth.
Sorry, gal. Morgoth. You may remember this from the beginning of Season 1 where Galadriel kills an ice troll by herself. Same place. Cut inside, and we see Sauron, who looks like he's been hitting the lembas bread pretty hard, playing with a ring on his hand. Get it? It's a ring. He's playing with a ring, and it's Lord of the Ring. Anyway, he's giving his best Lord Farquhar impression.
You may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
To the rabble of orcs while a recast Adar looks on. I just have to say, let me stop here real fast. I feel so sorry for casual viewers. Why would you make this the first scene? You have a recast Adar and a Sauron with a face nobody has seen. Plus, I would wager most normies don't even know who Morgoth was. Morgoth is a big bad of the Legendarium. He's an evil Valar, basically the universe's equivalent to Satan. He was Sauron's old master before Morgoth was defeated and locked away until the Dagor Daggerath. But whatever, I don't blame Benjen Stark for telling his agent to get him the heck out of the show. Sauron apparently rolled a critical fail on persuasion because nobody in the room is buying what he's selling. In fact, the orcs have an assassination plot against Sauron, which works. And we're gonna have to stop a bit here to talk about this. So, the guy who was Morgoth's right-hand man, the guy who needed an alliance of elves and men to be defeated.
A last alliance of men and elves marched against the armies of Mordor, and on the slopes of Mount Doom, they fought for the freedom of Middle-earth.
The guy who was the chief antagonist for the entire Lord of the Rings saga was offed by a bunch of orcs. Less orcs than either Legolas or Gimli slayed during Helm's Deep alone were able to end Sauron? Yeah. That doesn't cheapen or diminish the efforts of Gil-galad and Elendil during the last duel at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Rings. That doesn't diminish all the effort and sacrifice given by all the free people of Middle-earth to stop Sauron during the events of Lord of the Rings. That doesn't drastically neuter the unspeakable threat that was supposed to be Sauron. Okay, whatever. He was stabbed to death like a hot blonde Julius Caesar, and his escaping essence encases the landscape in ice. But of course, everyone at the center of the blast is okay. Whatever. The orcs crown Adar as Lord Father King. By the way, what the fuck is Adar? Is he an orc? Uruk-hai? Emo elf? Why is he special? Why is he the only one of his kind? Is he the only one of his kind? Will we see more emo elves like Adar? Why is it when he was tortured by Morgoth, he wasn't turned into an orc like the other elves? I'm sure we'll get all the answers to these questions. Next, we have a few scenes that will have Sony and Marvel suing Amazon for copyright infringement because we have a symbiote, some black goo flippity-flopping around a mountain, crawling around Middle-earth. I can't wait to see Black Suit Galadriel. Like, oh, God. I almost vomited at the thought of that. Can you imagine how Black Suit would change her? Like how a symbiote would change her? Like, how could she be more insufferable?
See you, chump.
Than she already is. Anyway, Sauron eats a lady and he's back. And now he's pissed. We see the Halbrand Sauron walking on some road and meets up with some refugees. Sauron talks to the nice old man that has the Southland's King pouch thing. So we know from the first season that Sauron will be pulling this off of him in his last moments. I love how this guy's trying to act aloof, but keeps turning back to convince them with his empty platitudes.
A sure path may crumble, but there's always another. Often, it can lead us someplace better, someplace good. Find another path, perhaps another life. Come with us if you like, or walk on and keep chasing death. Choice is yours, friend.
I have expected him to turn around again, like, we get it, mate. Choice is mine, whatever. We have the scene on a boat. This scene functions only to get Sauron on the raft with the King's pouch thing in his hand, and that's what it does. It also shows that Sauron apparently has Aquaman powers. So I guess DC will be joining in that lawsuit with Sony and Marvel. And in the scene where he meets Galadriel on the raft, did they have the actor come back to fill pickups? with like just to make an evil face before she gets on the raft. Like, we get it. He's Sauron. We get it. We don't need all the faces and mustache twirling, but we're gonna get a lot more of that. Next, we have a scene of Galadriel chasing Elrond back to Lindon, and thank you, director, for not giving us another close-up shot of her riding. I'm honestly surprised that they allowed Elrond to be her here. Again, this scene, like many other scenes in this series, remind me of the Jackson trilogies, the Fellowship of the Ring, where the Ring Wraiths are chasing Arwen and Frodo. Just another example of lifted materials from the Jackson trilogies. This scene with Galadriel, Gil-galad, Elrond. God. Alright, let's get into one of the biggest. What? From the first season. Why does Galadriel not tell everyone that Sauron is back? This is not only her life's mission, but her vindication. She was right all along. Sauron was not gone forever. She should have been the first person running around telling everyone who and what Halbrand is. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why she doesn't. Why does neither Elrond nor Gal tell Celebrimbor that Halbrand is Sauron? The show never ever tells us why, and that is because the show doesn't know either. The show wants this drama between Galadriel, Elrond, etc. without earning it. They want Celebrimbor to be in the dark because the writers need him to know what's not going on. So Galadriel can't tell him, though that is the most logical thing to do. It's what Galadriel would do. Instead, they have Galadriel treating Sauron like some one-night stand that she's embarrassed about, and it's weird, show. It's really weird. It was already weird when the Hobbit movies had that icky flirt session between Gandalf and Galadriel.
Lady Galadriel.
Mithrandir. Gwen wini nunutui.
Ningus Antifanes. Maloecha e Kirillorian.
Do not be afraid, Mithrandir. You are not alone.
He is weak. He cannot remain here. It is draining his life. Please!
Come with me, my lady.
Please stop doing this. She's a married woman for Iru's sake. Please stop giving Celeborn horns. Back to Sauron going from Lord Farquhar to Moses, asking Adar to let his people go. But of course this is all part of his super secret plan. And we see that Waldrick is now the royal bootlicker. Cool. In season 1, Waldrick was all about serving Sauron.
The beautiful servant, he was lost, but shall return. Have you heard of him, lad? Have you heard of Sauron?
So you think he would be the first one to jump at the chance to meet Sauron if he actually has returned, but whatever. Next, we're transported to the desert, near or already en route, to check in on the stranger, and Frode, Nori. Actually, I'm just calling him Gandalf. I know he's Gandalf, you know he's Gandalf. Let's not pretend. And you know what? Let me just take a quick beat to say that unless explicitly stated, the actors are great, the crew and everyone working on it is great, the show is beautiful. Besides the writers, producers, and directors, and maybe some of them too, I don't know. I'm sure the crew are working very hard, and a lot of them probably really love Tolkien and were excited to work on the show. It's not their fault that they have shit showrunners. They don't deserve the hate. I have no hate for them. Having said that, these have to be the most painful scenes of the first season, with the Harfoots and all of that BS, and it's looking to be the same this season. Maybe not, but we'll get there later. These scenes, this story, even for the casual, has to be boring. We know how it ends, we know what it's for. It's so Gandalf can get his staff, his name, and love for halflings. Except, what it's really for is to trigger those member-berry dopamine hits by by showing off Gandalf and the not hobbits. Because it's not like the Legendarium isn't full to the gills with characters and stories and plot lines just begging to be adapted. And no, I'm not talking about Tom Bombadil, whoever the hell this guy is. They don't respect their audience or themselves enough to just let the story and the writing stand on its own merits. And it needs to be constantly referencing a better told story. Not even necessarily a better story, just a better told story in the Jackson trilogy. Whatever. Next, Sauron can talk to animals, we already knew that. Next, we're transported to the Grey Haven. And you may remember this place from the end of The Return of the King. It's where Frodo sailed off to the Undying Lands. And who do we see here? None other than my boy Círdan. And I actually love that they have the lore-accurate, very rare elven beard. It's a small touch, but I love it. This is a guy who has seen a lot, he's been through a lot, and he is the oldest elf still living in Middle-earth. And all that is shown in the fact that he has a beard. I love it, it matters, and I appreciate it. It's the little things. It's the little things. He's an awesome character. All you need to know is that he's very old, very wise, very powerful, and builds ships and helps elves sail to the Undying Lands when they are called to the sea. Elrond convinces Círdan to throw the rings into the sea, and we get a cool reference to the War of Wrath and the sinking of Beleriand. And I gotta say, honestly, I wasn't a fan of Elrond's casting in the first season, but he's growing on me a little bit in this season so far. Also, even though we know from The Lord of the Rings, this isn't a spoiler, that the rings are mostly free from Sauron's influence and that they do not corrupt and turn you into a ring wraith. However, in the books, when the One Ring is destroyed, it is remarked that the elven rings have become essentially devoid of power after the destruction of the One Ring. So there is a bit of Sauron's influence there, in that they use his ring lore to craft the rings, but I don't think the show will go into that minutia. I don't think they'll mention this, especially since the movies didn't. But technically, both Elrond and Galadriel are correct here. Actually, wait, before we move on, I need to talk about this scene. First, this line.
I did what I felt was right, and time alone will reveal whether that was folly or wisdom.
Sweetie, it's already been proven to be folly. You literally gave Sauron an army to conquer the fucking Southlands, led him to the heart of Eregion, showed him all your cool stuff, and let him escape. And she's like, it remains to be seen whether I actually messed up or not. It's like, you messed up. You definitely messed up. Also, what are these implications that they are making about Galadriel and Sauron's relationship?
I know the three rings are free of his influence.
But are you?
Did the writers kill off Celeborn just to put Galadriel in their self-insert fanfiction? She's so down bad for this man. And Elrond is the only dude that sees that the mere mention of Sauron makes the River Anduin run between Gal's legs. Anyway, so Poppy is back because Frodo needs a Sam. That's literally it. I hate this for a few reasons. Why even have Poppy come later? Why not just have Nori and Poppy leave together? If you really needed a tearjerker scene at the end of that season.
Where are you going?
To help my friend.
You're my best friend in this whole wide, wild world.
Have Nori and Poppy say goodbye to the parents. The only reason I can see is so we can have the lifted scene of Frodo and Sam being followed and capturing Gollum being repurposed as Nori and Gandalf being followed and capturing Poppy. And also having the repurposed scene of Frodo and Sam saying we're lost.
We're going in circles.
This looks strangely familiar.
Because we've been here before. We're going in circles.
Just like Nori and Gandalf say, oh, we're lost. I mean, and also they just wanted a fake out. That it was a friendly that was captured and not, some Tusken Raider cultist that was captured. You would think they would have had a look for a map in Sedok's book before they left too, but whatever. She brings a map or whatever and they find Rune and we have more Tusken Raiders surveying our travelers, whatever. Círdan paddles out into the bay and I guess through Iru's intervention or a water spout, they never really explain what happens, but he is dissuaded from throwing the rings overboard. And instead, he looks at them and we know what's going to happen from there. Let's cut back to Mordor. Since Sauron has been broken by Old Man Waldreg yet, Adar himself steps in to get information from him. And now we hear a bit more about Adar's backstory. Like, we knew he was tortured by Morgoth. Still, not sure why he didn't just become an orc, or whatever. This scene is a bit weird. Why is Sauron crying during the story here when Adar mentions him meeting Prologue Sauron? Like, what is he feeling? Sadness, I assume here? Why? And then right after, we get another mustache-twirling face as Sauron swears to serve the Lord of Mordor. Sneaky Sauronsis, tricksy Sauronsis. You like my Gollum impression? Alright, moving on. Oh yeah, Waldrick gets eaten. Alright, moving on. Anyway, back to Lindon. We're almost done. Don't worry. Círdan shows up just in time, of course, to say that he thinks the rings are actually pretty cool, guys, and that we should totally use them. And of course they work. And all the goo goes away and the leaves come back and it shines and it's awesome. But Elrond is still mad and whatever. And of course Galadriel gets a ring for whatever reason, even though she's shown herself to be untrustworthy, even though it's been shown that there's some lingering effects with her relationship or whatever that was with Sauron. But I think the best part of this scene is that Círdan is like, yeah, I'm gonna keep this. Like, he never asks or whatever. Like, nobody questions this. It's like, yeah, this ring is mine. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's just his now. It's just like, all right. Last scene. We are transported back to Eregion where, and I have to say, the worst casting. The actor, he's a fine actor. Sure, he's a nice guy. The casting is shit. Celebrimbor. I'll have more to say on that later, but Celebrimbor is rebuilding his forge, and we have a very sinister, mustache-twirling looking Halbrand Sauron arriving in. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen? Alright, that's it. I'm not really sure how we got here. How Western entertainment and neo-mythology has sunk this low. To be an unending stream of derivative corporate slop, like some sort of goo sliding down a mountainside and being stuck to a carriage wheel. Well, I know how we got here, but I stare at the wreckage behind us in disbelief and sorrow. We should be in a golden age, nay, a diamond age of movies and cinema and media. But alas, it seems as if Western cinema and media peaked in the aughts and the teens of the 2000s, and we have been on an inexorable slide towards mediocrity for the past decade. And unfortunately, Rings of Power is the rule to that and not the exception, as much as we may wish otherwise. This show could have been a culturally shifting show with the money that Amazon was willing to put behind it, and instead this is what we get. We get a Galadriel that's insufferable, a Celebrimbor that looks like he should be on the cast of Frasier, a Gil-galad that looks like he should be handling returns at the Best Buy down the street. You know, again, the only good thing about this show are the landscapes. Anyway, we have 2 more episodes. Oh God, we have a whole season to go. I appreciate you listening this long. I think, honestly, there's so many things I didn't even mention that I wanted to go deeper into. I might do like just this really long, detailed breakdown of the whole season once this is all done and just save all my notes for then. You know, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate you listening.